Welcome to Drums by Liz. Today we're fooling around with a little 7-stroke roll into a groove and then playing a nice little 3-3-2 pattern off into an inverted 3-3-2 pattern, okay, as our fill-in, okay? The groove is a little bit more intense, okay? We're going to be counting it as 1 and a 1 E and a 2 E and a. Let's take the first half of the groove, okay? So 1 and a 1 E and a 2 E and a. That's just with one bass drum on beat 1 right now. We're going to add another bass drum in a moment, okay? Let's first understand the sticking pattern. 1 and a 1 E and a 2. When we begin the roll on the E of the beat there, 1 E and a 2, 1 E and a 2. We're really counting it as 1 and a 1 E and a 2. 1 and a 1 E and a 2 E and a 1 E and a 2. Same thing, okay? So try to, make logical sense of that, right? Because if we counted 1 E and a, right? If I doubled my notes, you can think of it in that regard. Or if you want to, you double up the whole thing. 1 and a 1 E and a. 1 and a 1 E and a 2 E and a. Okay? So you got a couple systems to work with, and hopefully that's logical and makes sense to you. Okay? So 1 and a 1 E and a 2 E and a. And then I threw in a little opening on the of 2. Okay? If you can, try to work in the of the beat on beat 1 and your bass line. 1 and a 1 E and a 2 E and a 1 and a 1 E and a. Oh, it's with those last double lefts before we hit our snare on beat 2. So I'll walk you through that nice and slow. So 1 and a 1 E and a right there. So 1 and a 1 E and a 1 and a 1 E and a 2 E and a 1. And it does. It takes a moment to coordinate that, right? So don't be afraid to sit there and do stuff like that. Isolate the exact problem, right? What's the problem? Being able to play something on the left side of the body as you tag along on the right side of the body. We have to use both sides of the brain to do that, a little harder. So you're left with the right foot. So, right? Some coordination exercises like that are very helpful. When we get to beat 3, then I was just playing it as 3 E and a 4 E and we're going to do another little opening on the and a 4 there, okay? So again, from beat 3, bass, left, right, bass, okay? 3 E and a 4 E and. Now sometimes I like to go like 3 E and a 4 E and you could have an extra snare note in there if you'd like, okay? It depends on, what you're going for, okay? All right, so let's take a look at then the second half. 3 E and a 4 E and or 3 E and a 4 E and or. Right, so there's that snare note instead of a cymbal note on the E of 3, okay? Put everything together. 1 and a 1 E and a 2 E and a 3 E and a 4 E and. Okay, put a little bit of speed with it. 1 and a 1 E and a 2 E and a 3 E and a 4 E and. A little more speed with it. Purposely played that with that left, the E in there of 3, 2 times at the end there, okay, in case you want to decipher that and work through that. Okay, so nice groove, kind of an easier fill-in. Maybe that groove is harder than the fill-in. Okay, so let's take a look at the fill-in now. We could play it as then 1 E and A, 2 E and A. Now feel free to move around. Sure. Anywhere you want to go. You can even work in hi-hat notes. If you want to, punch, stab type of thing, okay? So those are options for you. I was going to show it as also back and forth, okay? But I find that the right, left, left, right, left, left, right, left, again, that 3-3-2 pattern, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, right? Think of it mathematically. Many times it helps us in that regard, okay? But I was going to also show it as back and forth. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 1, 2. So it could be like that. 1 and then we would come into our second part. So feel free to experiment with different types of sticking patterns, right? I just find that right, left, left, it helps us crank up the tempo a little bit better, okay? Because we can move quicker. That stuff is really cool to work on, just going like, right, just kind of mess around with it a little bit, see where it takes you, okay? So we've got then the first part of the fill-in figured out as 1 E and A, 2 E and A. And if you notice down below, what are we creating? Another polyrhythm, right? 1 E and A, 2 E and A, drip, all, let. There's our quarter note triplets. All right, so second part, we just invert. So rather than, playing a note in a bass note, we're going to now do a flam note, and then we're following it with the basses on those where the snare notes were, if that makes sense, okay? So inverting the pattern. 3 E and A, 4 E and A, if I did it with flams, right? Again, you can orchestrate however you want. 3 E and A, 4 E and A, that's kind of nice. Like that, or... right? Again, it's up to your own discretion what you want to hear, what sounds nice with whatever you're patterning this with. Okay, so then the whole fill-in. Right, we've got all of that worked out. Now you don't have to play the crazy weird groove that I put with it, right? Right, that groove. You can just come back to a real straight groove. Easier groove, maybe you want to try that challenge of doing the back and forth idea, right? So, right, and then we're not so, intense with our groove there, right? So, water down one of the parts for yourself, in other words, okay? And this is how we, we kind of coddle ourselves a little bit, and help ourselves through some of these harder parts, right? Then you can always escalate all of this. We could start rolling in between some of those notes, right? Right? So the sky's the limit with everything. It's up to your own creative expression, right? In your orchestration, whatever that you want to see or hear or feel. Okay, so, and that's the beauty of it. And that's the cool part that always drags us back into the drum room, right? Back into the studio, to keep moving forward, trying to help others as much as I possibly can, and just share the love of this wonderful instrument, that we can all be, so blessed by, so fortunate to study and get good at. All right, everybody, have a great week ahead, okay? And we'll see you real soon. Happy drumming.